Good day, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the first of our three-part investment webinars to how to start an investment journey. It is proudly hosted by Fairtree, and my name is Salma Kruger. I have a huge passion for financial education, and hence you find me on the other side of your screen today. You'll also see that we have titled this The Financial Forest, which might seem a bit strange because what does a financial forest have to do with an investment talk? We have found over the years, as we have been dealing with clients, that to the majority of them, investment planning really is like a forest. It's overwhelming, it's intimidating. A lot of them don't know where to start. They're afraid they're going to get lost. They're even afraid of what could be lurking in the shadows because they're not sure what to expect. So with these sessions, it is really our objective to take you from roots to results. So if we delve a little deeper in what we will be looking at in this first session, you'll see here forest elements, unpacking the forest, and then also something we call a bit of homework. I'm going to move through this rather quickly. It is very basic, but we want all attendees just to get a good grasp in terms of how we see this financial forest and the analogy when it comes to your investment portfolio. So as you can see on the screen, here is a picture of a forest that we have created with a lot of elements. And as you can see, we have said that investing has a number of personal elements to consider. So see this as representing your investment portfolios. Of course, first and foremost, you would need soil, and this is equivalent to your financial reality when it comes to investment planning. Your financial reality is really the space or the environment that you find yourself in when it comes to finances. Differently put, it is your frame of reference when it comes to money. This is, of course, impacted by a lot of influences over your lifetime, and we're going to look at that a little bit later in the session. Secondly, of course, you also need seed, and this would be your money personality. It is really the core of your relationship when it comes to money because everything sprouts from this money personality. In the same way that we would have different kinds of seed, we also have different kinds of money personality. If you want to plant an oak tree or yellowwood tree or even flowers, there's a certain type of seed you will use. In the same way, we will have different money personalities like savers and shoppers and super spenders. We'll also get into detail in the session when it comes to money personalities. Thirdly, of course, there would also be some roots, which will be your financial literacy. So this will be your level of knowledge and understanding when it comes to finances. So we're saying if you have a good level of knowledge and understanding when it comes to all things money, you will have strong and healthy roots, and of course the opposite is also true. So when we take the soil, the seeds and the roots, we can actually then at the end of the day let a tree grow. So we will now look at how do we nurture this tree, which will also of course then be equivalent to an investment. Of course, a tree would need water, which would be recurring contributions when it comes to investment. For instance, you will contribute 500 Rand to a retirement annuity per month. You would also need sunshine when it comes to this tree that you need to nurture. And this will be time in the world of investments. As the sun will rise and the sun will set, it takes patience and a lot of time for this tree or this investment to grow. Investing is not an instant gratification game, so one really needs to be patient when it comes to reaping the rewards in future. Fertilizer will be like additional contributions. We know that fertilizer will give any plant a boost if it is worked into the soil around the tree or the flowers. In the same way, if you contribute additionally to your investment, for instance, use a SARS refund, or perhaps you inherited some money, or you add your additional bonus to your investment, it will also give your investment a boost. This inevitably, all put together, will lead to growth when it comes to your tree and of course then your investment. But there's also things that will threaten the growth of your investments, and one of these things will be bad debt. So we see this as weeds in your forest and threatening, choking your tree or your investment, and it actually also absorbs all the nutrients and the water from the soil around your tree and really doesn't allow it to grow to its full potential. So we need to be very mindful of weeds in our forest, but we will actually also look at this during the course of our second session and how to make sure that we can basically be free of weeds if they are actually present in our forest. This will inevitably lead to more growth, of course, investment growth as well. But the objective should never be to have only this one tree and to see how big and how high we can get this tree to grow. Because in the same way that we will have different trees in a forest, some would be to yield some fruit, others would be used for shade or shelter. In the same way, you will have different financial objectives. So we would need different investment products to speak to those investment or financial objectives. So we would need more trees, we would need new investments, whether it is more unit trusts or a time and annuity, whatever the case might be. Of course, this will depend on the investor, in which phase of life you find yourself, and what your objectives would be. Then, of course, like with all things in life, there will be certain weather conditions that is also at play. In the same way, in the investment world, there will be certain market conditions. Sometimes it will be favorable, at other times it will not be favorable. But if your trees are rooted and your portfolio is actually robust enough, it will weather the storms. It will actually be able to withstand any kind of market conditions, and also once again benefit from the upside that will come after this, let's call it, winter period has passed through the investment market. And then we also need to benefit from investments. You're not just going to invest for nothing. Whether it's interest, whether it's dividends, whether it's bond yields, whatever the case might be, you would want to rather benefit from your investment. So taking some of these proceeds to either pay for your kids' education, you want to go on a holiday, or you want to create passive income streams for your, let's call it, golden years. Once again, this will be determined by your financial objectives, but each and every investor would want a return from their investment. And then last but not least, investments are not only about yourself. There's also other life. You'll see here in the picture we have squirrels, we have birds. It is really your legacy at the end of the day, whether it's to make provision for your family, whether it is to leave a lasting legacy when it comes to generations to come, whether it's being involved in community upliftment or charity work. Hopefully this will also motivate you to manage and to steward your investments really well. So here on the screen then you will see the entire picture then of a forest, which will represent all the elements that would be involved in your investment portfolio. So as I mentioned previously, it is very important to us that we want to encourage and to empower you to set up this ecosystem where everything can coexist and that you can benefit from your investment portfolio at the end of the day. There's something that's very fundamental when it comes to putting up an investment portfolio. Sometimes people refer to it as the fluffy stuff, and that is of course behavioral finance. But we have seen, as we work with clients, this really forms the foundation when it comes to financial decision making, and that is a very good place for us then to start. So what is behavioral finance? Behavioral finance in a nutshell is the study of how psychological influences can affect our decision making when it comes to money. So as you will see up there on the screen, it really forms the foundation when it comes to your relationship with money. It influences how you see money, how you feel about money, if you decide to spend rather than save or vice versa. And it is really the biggest driver when it comes to the financial position that you'll find yourself in, not only currently, but also in future. I usually compare this to when you go to a dietitian because you want to go on a diet. So a dietitian can give you the perfect eating plan, but the dietitian is not there at 11 o'clock at night when you binge eat, or when you go out with friends and you eat way too much pizza on that night out. In the same way, we can provide you with retirement planning, whatever the case might be, but we are not there when you make these decisions to spend rather than save, for instance. So that is how important behavioral finance is, because it's really those underlying principles that you need to sort out when it comes to your relationship with money. And that is briefly what we are going to touch on in this session. The soil really being your financial reality. That will be your financial space or environment that you find yourself in, or your frame of reference when it comes to money. This, of course, would have been impacted by a number of influences over your lifetime, one of which your childhood is one of the biggest drivers. So how you were raised by your parents or other family members would have had a huge influence on how you see money. Perhaps your parents were very generous and they didn't mind dishing out their possessions or money to other people. And in the same way, you are very generous because that is the example that was set for you. Or perhaps because they were very generous, you're not generous at all, because you might have lacked when it came to money because your parents just gave everything away. So you are very frugal in that regard. Or perhaps your parents got divorced and they were always fighting about money. Or perhaps money was the reason that they got divorced in the first place. So you would have this very negative connotation when it comes to money. So the only way to really sort of sort this out with yourself is you need to go and revisit your childhood. You need to go and sit down and think of all the key messages that you were told in your childhood by your parents and other family members. And you need to establish, have I been taught correctly when it comes to money? So it's very, very important to make sure that you are aware of the things that you've been taught in your childhood, and is it helpful to move forward with these messages in your life. Then also the current environment, of course. Global outlook, for instance, would be, let's take the COVID-19 pandemic. How has your view of money been changed ever since the pandemic started? Do you save more because suddenly you realize that you need to have money for a rainy day because, let's say, your spouse or even yourself lost a job and you didn't have any money to sustain yourself until you got or you secured a new job? In the same way, we need to be very careful when it comes to the media and what marketers out there would want us to do when it comes to our money. Do they drive you to spend your money in a certain way, sometimes really playing to your emotions? Also, financial experts. What do you listen to? What do you read? Are they financial experts or are they financial experts? These days, everyone has an opinion, everyone has a voice, especially on social media. But can you really trust what they are saying and act on that when it comes to your finances? We see things coming through, these trends, for instance, stock picking or investing in cryptocurrencies. But once again, are you sure you know what you are doing when you get involved in these types of investments? Next up would be emotions. Without a doubt, this is one of the biggest drivers when it comes to financial decision making. I only have to ask you, what is your earliest or strongest memory about money? For instance, let's say you always had to wear hand-me-down clothes because your parents were really poor, and you clearly remember how the children at school used to tease you because of the worn-out clothes that you wore. That created that emotion of feeling inferior, and that in turn then could have the effect that these days, because you're earning a decent salary, you would buy the most expensive clothes. You will give out all your money buying clothes that are branded because you never want to experience that emotion of inferiority again in your life. So there would be a lot of emotions driving your financial decision making, and because people generally have difficulty explaining or rather identifying what emotions are evoked when it comes to money, we have put together this one pager called Money and Your Emotions. And here we have this emotion wheel, and the idea is, by the way, this will form part of that homework that I mentioned earlier. The idea is for you to go through the list of questions and statements, and as you read this, you need to establish what emotion is stirred up when you go through this. So for instance, let's take the example of the hand-me-down clothes. So perhaps that has an influence on how you see rich people. So for instance, rich people make me feel, and perhaps they make you feel sad, because it makes you feel really depressed because they have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of money, you'll never have as much money as they have, you wish you had what they have, you are basically envying them, so they really make you feel depressed. But here you will see there would be feelings of emptiness and also feeling inferior to them. So then you will be able to identify what emotion this is, and then you need to establish, is it really right to feel inferior because you don't have, let's say, the same amount of money that your neighbor would have? Is your identity then tied to how much money you have? Is your self-worth equal to your net worth? So it's really a lot deeper than just this feeling of depression you get when you think about rich people. It's really these underlying things that needs to get sorted out. Otherwise, you could have all the money in the world and you still will feel inferior when it comes to other people. So this one pager is really to help you to pause, think, and then only decide what to do with your money, rather than simply reacting to the first emotion or feeling that comes up when you have to make a money decision. Then last but not least, when it comes to the soil, of course, values have a huge influence when it comes to your financial decision making. I love this quote by James W. Frick, which says, "Don't tell me where your priorities are, show me where you spend your money and I'll tell you what they are." We usually would say your bank statement and your diary will reveal a lot more about yourself than what you actually give yourself out to be. So what are values? There's of course a lot of definitions when it comes to that, but basically it's those fundamental beliefs or principles that dictate your conduct or your speech. So some people would say it's like a moral compass which actually guides you throughout your life. So whether it's religious or social or culture, we all have these values. I've typed out a couple of values here when it comes to money. So just to use an example of two, perhaps you value appreciation a lot. Then you will be one of those people who are always buying gifts just to show people how much you care, how much you appreciate them, or how much you appreciate them helping you with something. You could also value health a lot, which means you will spend a lot of money on a gym membership or buying supplements or buying healthy food. So the idea is to actually align our finances with our values, because then only we will live a happy and content life. The opposite is also true. If the way we handle our money is not in line with our values, we can actually feel very frustrated, very confused, sometimes very anxious. Research have shown that most people can't even name their top 5 values in life. So for that reason, we have also compiled this one pager called Money and Your Values. On this, you would find an exercise with a table of 120 values and also a 3-step process in terms of how to identify your top 5 values in order of importance. So the idea would be that you will actually need to align your finances at the end of the day with your top 5 values. It will really make a difference. I even used the example here. If your number 1 value is adventure, then save and actually go and book that trip. And being or going on a safari or going bungee jumping or white river rafting will absolutely help you to lead a better life, because it is aligned to your values. So next up would be, of course, the seeds, which are your money personalities. So remember, we said that your money personality is really the core when it comes to your relationship with money, as would be the case of a seed, because everything sprouts from it. So we have designed the sliding scale when it comes to different money personalities, and to the left of the sliding scale would be people that are obsessed with money. They can't stop thinking about money, they can't stop talking about money. And to the right hand side would be people that want to avoid the topic of money altogether. They are basically like an ostrich putting its head into the sand when the topic of money comes up. So just quickly running through the money personalities, I'm going to take it from left to right, but I'm going to show you the one pager we've also designed for you to actually go and establish what your personality is. So first you would have the stewer. So these would be the type of people that are constantly worried about money. They would check their bank balances their entire time, or they don't actually want to lend money to people because they would be afraid that they're not going to get their money back. They might also feel they're never going to have enough money. They want to make as much money in the shortest time possible. Then next up we will have the stasher. They just want to save. They don't even know what they're saving for, but all they know is they want to basically gather or collect or hoard as much money as possible. So those would be the stashers. Then the savers, you will see it's a bit amplified because according to us, this is basically your most balanced kind of money personality. Savers would be people that found a balance when it comes to savings and lifestyle. So typically they will have a budget and they will have enough money to lead a decent lifestyle, but they will also make provision for the future. They will have enough money to help out loved ones. They would have enough when emergencies arise, and at the end of the day they really only see money as a means of achieving other goals in life. Then the shoppers, these are the kinds of people that can really not walk past a sale sign. They love shopping just for the sake of giving out money. They want to buy non-essential things in life, spending all their money on luxuries. For them, a sale means I can buy 2 for the price of 1, and then they just buy like 4 at the end of the day. So those would be our shoppers. Giving out money really makes them feel good. Then the super spenders will flaunt money just for the sake of impressing other people. So they are the real big spenders, flying first class, having the newest gadgets on the market, driving the best cars. So when it comes to super spenders, it could be the case of my net worth is equal to my self-worth kind of thing, because they really want to show other people how much money they have. Then last but not least will be our shunners. So shunners would want to avoid the topic of money altogether. For them, the world would be a better place without money talks. They would say, I have enough money when I need it. I don't need a budget. I'm not interested to know about money. Please just leave me alone. My money issues will take care of themselves. So those would be the shunners. Like I mentioned, we've also put together a nice one-pager when it comes to your money personality. And here we will have a number of triggers under each personality to help you to identify which money personality you most likely are. Of course, it's very, very important to know what your money personality is or is likely to be, because you would want to change your money personality if you're not happy with your money personality. Perhaps you realize when you read the description of a super spender, wow, this is really me, but I need to make peace with the fact, that I don't really have all the money in the world to spend, or why am I constantly wanting to impress other people? Is it really worth it? So this can actually help you then to shape your personality and perhaps move from a super spender rather to a saver, or if you realize you're really a shopper, is it really worth it to give out all this money on things that you don't really need at the end of the day? So it is very good to be aware of which money personality, not like a category, but where do you find yourself when it comes to your relationship with money, and of course what is the reason of that in the first place. So we trust that will also be very helpful. Then last but not least would be the roots, your financial literacy. So remember, we said this would be your level of knowledge and understanding when it comes to finances. So if you are financially savvy or have a healthy relationship with money, then at the end of the day, you will be able to make sound financial decisions. So how do we grow, or how do you grow strong and healthy roots? Of course, by increasing your level of knowledge and understanding. So you can do this by way of referring back to some of the things we have spoken to in this session. For instance, when it comes to your childhood, if there are any negative thoughts that you need to break about money, you can work on that. Or if there are some unhealthy emotions when it comes to money, you also need to sort that out. Or perhaps, once again, you need to align your finances with your values. So as your level of knowledge and understanding increases when it comes to finances, it will also help you to deal with these, let's say, messages from your past or things you might believe that are not necessarily true. It will help you to work on that. And then also you can change your money personality. It's not really possible to change your personality as a whole. It's very genetical, but when it comes to your money personality, there are ways that you can shape it going forward if you're not happy with where you find yourself. And then last but not least, of course, educate yourself. So listen and read when it comes to investment planning or things that financial experts put out there. Just make sure that it is a reliable source and the information that you are taking in is, of course, accurate at the end of the day. So that basically concludes the soil, the seeds, and the roots. We will also make these PDF 1-pages available under the course material, so you can take all the time you need to complete these exercises. And if there are any, let me call it, pitfalls when it comes to your finances in any one of these categories, it will absolutely be worthwhile to work on it. That concludes our first session of the Financial Forest. Thank you so much for joining us. We trust it was valuable, it was worthwhile, and that you will also reap the rewards in the future. Please join us for the second session as we will unpack those principles, products, and projections when it comes to your investment planning.